Tonight I have my first tier list for the Jetburn competitive meta. I've only taken the time to actually rank my top 50 characters. All characters below 50 I just piled into this fun tier. Now I'm not saying that all of these characters in the fun tier are equal to each other. Of course I could further make tier lists here. I'm also not saying that all of these characters are terrible. I actually think there's a number of these that are very, very good. I would not be flabbergasted to see one of these characters make top cuts at a major event. You know, the webcam event coming up December 2nd. It wouldn't shock me to see like Endeavor 1 there. You know, the Earth symbol's gotten a lot of support. The Fire symbol's gotten a lot of support. Mill strategy has gotten a lot of support. So, you know, if somebody's put in the time on Endeavor 1, I absolutely wouldn't be shocked to see Endeavor 1 make top cuts. And that goes for a lot of these characters like Denki 1, Shigaraki 1, Sakaki, All Might 7, Dabi. These are characters I wouldn't be shocked if they made top cuts, but they're also just not in my top 50. So let's focus in on my top 50. And I know the first characters everybody's going to look for are the Jetburn characters. So let's talk about the Jetburn characters. Overall, I have 14 out of the 20 Jetburn characters in my top 50. That's a pretty high percentage rate compared to all of the other sets. I think this is indicative of some power creep that's going on in terms of character strength. We really saw it last set when the starter characters, sorry, I've got these out of order here, when the starter characters from Undaunted Raid were then the best two characters in the meta. And that power creep has kind of continued the trend of it because these Jetburn characters are crazy strong. And we've already seen the Challenger deck characters coming out soon. We've seen a Yusuke from the Yu Yu Hakusho set, and all of those characters are also very strong. So this power creep and character strength, I think, is probably here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future. So 14 Jetburn characters in my top 50, but I don't have a single Jetburn character in my S tier. I've got 9 of them down here in this A- and A+ tier, but I couldn't quite get myself to actually say any of these characters were S tier. I suppose the one I was closest on was like Edshot, maybe, because they get to play really strong offense and really strong defense if they'd like to, or maybe Hawks, but that might be a really hot take. I'll go one by one on my Jetburn characters, and then I'll just give overall trends on the other characters because we've all seen these characters before. Okay, Todoroki gets to give +1 speed and +1 damage, and then he gets to give more of those based on how many rival foundations he has sealed. He also gets to seal rival foundations on defense, which is nice. Of course, you know, if he gets Charring Flurry out, if he sees some irrefutable forces of nature or some of his foundations that seal rival foundations, then he can be very, very strong. But he is dependent on seeing those tech pieces. He's dependent on getting the momentum to make Charring Flurry online. And then even if you seal 4 rival foundations, a lot of times what you're really looking to do is seal your rival's character. Like Momo, Nomu, Eraserhead, Recovery Girl, these are all going to be quite strong characters even if you do seal their foundations. So with that said, I think that's kind of holding Todoroki back from the S tier. Still very, very strong. You know, if you can get to +3/+3 very early on, you're probably going to kill your opponent. Ryukyu, I know, is probably the surprise. A lot of people are acting like Ryukyu is the major boogeyman of the format right now. And I do think that's true to some extent, but it's not because of how strong she is. I think it's based on how boring she is, because she just plays her kit and no cards outside of her kit. She's quite simple to put a very strong list in play. I don't think you need a lot of skill to run Ryukyu really well. So a very, very boring deck, a non-innovative deck, and I think that's the real problem with Ryukyu. Maybe I'll make a whole video about that in the future. But in terms of strength, of course, I think you could go and dominate your locals with Ryukyu. I think you could make top cuts at the December webcam event with Ryukyu, but I think all the Ryukyus that make top cuts are probably going to get slaughtered in the first or second round of top cuts. I don't think this character is going to be dominating top tables by any stretch of the imagination. And so Ryukyu is down here in the A+ tier. For example, if I wanted to play an aggressive Capture Evildoers deck, I would much rather play Murio. Murio gets access to a much better string starter than Ryukyu has in Phantom Threat, getting to make that like 9 speed, 10 speed, and is going to clear itself and go to your momentum. He gets access to just as much draw. He gets defense on face. Murio's also going to be a lot stronger in the jet burn meta because people are going to be less prepared for him. That was probably the main thing holding him back in Undaunted Raid, is that everybody was teching against Murio. Well, now everybody's going to be teching against these very strong jet burn characters because the jet burn characters are probably going to see the most play. Everybody wants to play the latest characters, and their strength, their power level is such that people will be piling into them. So everybody's going to be teching defensively for jet burn characters, which is going to make Murio very, very strong. Also, did you know that these Ryukyu lists are only playing like 10 low blocks? Most of these Ryukyu lists I look at totally disrespect low attacks. And of course, Murio is going to make everything low. So if I wanted to play this aggro Capture Evildoers deck, I'd play Murio. Of course, I'm hoping Capture Evildoers gets banned, but if they didn't ban it this month, they're probably not going to ban it in December, and there's not going to be enough data there to make any bans in January, is at least my suspicion. So I'm suspecting Capture Evildoers is just here to stay, and we're going to have to deal with it. That's enough about Ryukyu. Let's go to Edshot. This is also another very similar to Todoroki. Anytime you're giving +1 speed, +1 damage, and that gets to ramp, then you're going to be very, very strong. Edshot also gets to play a lot of defense, and this lurker support with like Titan Cliff, Canyon Kick, I forgot her 2 difficulty name, not the 6 diff attack, the 2 difficult, it was like paper, I can't remember, 1,000 sheet paper. Very, very strong. So Edshot at the A+ tier, almost took Edshot to the S tier, couldn't quite get myself to do it. Hawks might be a surprise. I've seen a lot of other content creators and major players in this game putting Hawks in like the B tier or even below the B tier, and I think that is very, very wrong. I think this character might just be the best jet burn character. Hawks gets, sure, it takes him a little bit of time to get the feathers in the discard pile, but even once he has 1, like on turn 2 or turn 3, maybe he just has 1, you're still a 7-hander getting to pick up this feather. And then by turn 3, turn 4, you're typically an 8-hander. You play really solid defense. You play really solid offense, getting to basically add a speed to everything and switch the damage and speed. You get to use that on offense and on defense. A lot of times on defense, that's just a free block. So you're kind of similar to Murio, where you just get, you don't have to waste a card or resources on blocking something of your opponent. Or you can make it high, make it slow, and showdown block and just annihilate your opponent's stage. I think Hawks is very, very strong. What holds this character back is basically what holds Momo back, which is you are a very high skill character, and so a lot of players aren't going to be picking this character up, or a lot of players will pick up Hawks, they'll play a few games, they'll get absolutely trashed, and then they'll say, this character isn't that good. But I think Hawks is a very rewarding character. The more you play him, the more and more strong he gets, and you have to be very comfortable with this character. It's very similar to Momo. Like, Momo is held back not by her strength, but just by the number of players that actually play her, and the players that do play her, the number of those players that actually play her well. And I think that's going to be similar to Hawks. Oako, very, very strong. There's just no defense on face. And typically when I'm looking at the S tier or A+ tier, I want you to have some sort of defense on face. But Oako gets to unflip something, gets to normally ready 2 or 3 things over her turn, and she's getting to add 3 speed or 3 damage. You pick. That's nuts. I don't see any world in which Oako 4 is anything less than A tier, just held back a little bit by lack of defense. Onto the A- tier, I've got Midoriya 5, Bakugo 4, Asui 3, and Mount Lady 2. Midoriya 5 is one that I don't feel super comfortable with this ranking. I just don't see how this character cannot be good. You're getting to add like 3 speed to Home Run Comet, 3 speed to Indiscriminate Shock. You're getting to see like 9 cards over the course of your turn, because on your 3rd attack, you get to discard a card and draw 3 more. Now, albeit that draw is coming after you've already played 3 attacks, and so you're going to, you've already committed to a certain line of play. Card draw is always best if it can happen on your 1st attack, so that you can make, choices based on what you draw. Whereas by the time you draw with Midoriya 5, you typically already have 3 attacks in your card pool. That holds them back a little bit. In my testing of him, I haven't been super impressed, but just theoretically, I can't see how this character is an A tier. Bakugo 4, very, very strong, gets to clear his card pool, gets to add a ton of damage to his moves, especially if he gets like rabble rousing or suited up out. My brother's been playing a list that really works well with the assets suited up, and pretty soon he's just adding 4 damage to everything. He's using cards like Stun Grenade to stun you out. He's drawing more attacks. It gets just kind of crazy. Also plays some solid defense, getting to discard a card from his card pool. That's not nothing. But he is a little gate-kept into his kit right now, and I think that holds him back. So that's why I don't have an A+ tier like Hawks and Edshot, for example. Asui 3, I think this character is interesting. I think this character is a lot of fun. This is the character I played at my pre-release event, and I went 2-1 and had a blast, was really impressed, but ultimately this character is not giving stats. You get to commit to give a damage. If your rival blocks, you can uncommit, and then you can commit for a damage. I am going to have a hard time putting Asui in the A+ tier or the S tier without giving stats of some kind. That's why she's down here. Mount Lady 2, of the lurkers, I just prefer Edshot. I think Edshot's got the much stronger game plan, although there's no denying that the word unblockable is very, very strong in this game right now. Mount Lady does get to 5 or 10 counters pretty quickly, and then she's stunning one of your face-ups and giving 3 damage to everything. That's very strong, but A- tier for Mount Lady 2. And then down here in the B tier for Jetburn characters, I have Inasa, Jiro, Mirko, Gentle Criminal, and Endeavor 3. All of these characters I think are quite strong, but they have like fundamental aspects of their game plan holding them back. For example, Endeavor 3, you really don't get to unlock this character until you've milled. Gentle Criminal, you're kind of depending on your opponent interacting with you to fully unlock this character. You're not getting a lot of damage on face. Mirko, you have to play into this game plan of only having 1 attack in your card pool at any time, so you're kind of locked into which attacks you can choose. Giving Breaker 2 on your rival's turn every time is pretty nice, but that gets a lot less nice the bigger your rival's stage gets, then the more they can withstand that. Jiro, I think this character is going to feel really nice when you get Jiro's base in your stage, but not so nice without it. I know there's some crazy loops here with like Tasty Riff, UA High, and Capture Evildoers, but I don't think that's probably consistent enough, for the applesauce counter strategy to win. And then Inasa, Destroy 1, Refresh 1 is interesting, but you are having to commit like 3 difficulty foundations to fully utilize his plus or minus speed, and then you are blowing up your stage. You're not giving damage on your character face. I think that's going to kind of hold Inasa back, although a very interesting character. So that's it for the Jetburn characters, 14 out of the 20 in my top 50. A very, very impressive showing for Jetburn. Now let's talk about my S tier characters. My S tier characters, again, characters that are strong on offense and on defense, or just insane aggro. And I've got all of my rows here listed by set 1 to set 2 to set 3 and so on. And if I was to actually rank my top 3 characters, and this is why I had them here at the beginning, but my top 3 characters in the game right now are Overhaul, Murio, and Jiro. These have been my top 3 characters in the game now for a while, and that just hasn't changed. Jiro got a lot of support on air with like Falling Skies, what is it called? The destroy your high attack, it's +2 speed. I can't remember it, but there's a lot of air support here for Jiro. On good, Jiro gets access to Fierce Wings to go and pick up a Specialized Sound Waves, go and pick up a Futures now, or maybe even like a Save a Million strike. Very, very, Fierce Wings is a game changer on her good symbol builds. Overhaul, the life symbol build didn't get a lot of support, but Earth and Evil got a ton of support in Jetburn, and that's probably going to make the Earth build of Overhaul the best build of Overhaul going forward. And then Murio didn't get a lot of support this set, but just got a lot of support in the sense that people aren't going to be teching against him, and because of that, he might just be the best character in the game when people aren't watching for him. As for new characters in my S tier, in the past I didn't have Shigaraki here or Amajiki here. I just have a lot of respect for Amajiki after Nationals. He was a very good, Amajiki had a very good representation in top cuts, and there were, everybody's of course on the chaos symbol, but there was some pretty good variation in the builds, and it was very hard to play against this character. I was just really impressed by his Nats showing, and I think players will continue to play Amajiki. Shigaraki just got a ton of support from Dabi 3's kit with like Blue Flame Torment, League Handler, Fiery Confrontation. And so I think that's going to take Shigaraki up here into the S tier. As for other characters, I don't think there's any major surprises. I guess we have the 7-handers down here, the Earth and Water 7-handers, Ibarra and Kamui Woods. I think those symbols just got a lot of support, the Earth and Water symbols, and these characters get to fully take advantage of that support. Nejire might be a surprise to some people since she's never made top cuts at a major competitive event, but I just can't admit that this character is anything less than A tier. We're a 7-hander with basically like 27, 28 health, and we get to say -2 to our speed to our opponent's attacks and +2 damage to ours. This character has to be good, and Incredible Display is the foundation that this character was searching for. It's an absolute game changer for her builds, and I'm hoping that's going to level her builds up to where she makes top cuts. And let's see, I've got all 4 of my Dekus kind of down here. They just can't make a Deku that's like S tier. They keep trying with this character, right? It's very similar to All Might, where All Might has like 7 builds, and now Deku has 5 different characters, and we still haven't seen a true S tier Deku, but they're all like good. They're all baseline good. I'm just waiting for that truly great Midoriya to finally get printed. I think Dabi is probably slept on. Again, if you think Capture Evildoers should be banned, you should definitely try your hand at Fire Dabi. I've got these Heroes Clash starter deck characters down here at the B-. Still very, very solid. Asui here, got the Ochakos and Midnight. Yeah, I don't see any character that necessarily I want to talk more about from before Jetburn. I think I covered everything that I want to cover. If you disagree with any of my rankings here, I want to hear about it. I really value feedback, and I want to just get everybody's opinions. Ultimately, I think that's the benefit of tier lists, is it just gets people talking and talking about the differences. So if you have any major disagreements, please let me hear it in the comments. Tell me why these rankings are abysmal and why your character is heavily slept on and I just totally overlooked them. All right, that is going to do it for me today. I'll see you guys next time.